we're going to just help make sure your Evernote is set up so it can capture all of the different contexts of your life. So up until this point, we've worked on 7 major contexts and the 4 notebooks. So the 4 notebooks are complete. We're not going to necessarily add anything to that, although as you'll see when we go through mine, I have more notebooks for different things that I want to do. So when I have an idea that I want to implement in my coaching business, I will capture that and I'll store that in a separate notebook. Unless it is something that I need to bring into action into my life, then I can keep that in my action pending. Okay. So in addition to the 4 notebooks, we're going to have, and the 7 tags, we're going to have different contexts. So the tags all relate to the time context, where we deal with what we're going to do daily, the things that are happening now or that we want to bring into our life now, the 2 next, 3 soon, 4 later, 5 Sunday, and the 6 waiting context. Okay, so amongst these 4 notebooks and 7 time contexts, we can actually do most things, because if we want to be productive, we have to have a sense of when in time certain things are going to be achieved. And with the coaching, regardless of what your personal goals are, we've tried to work at 2 basic scales. So one is what you want to achieve someday, where you want to get to long term, and then of course, what you're doing each day in order to align your basic behavior, your daily behavior, with where you want to get to long term. Okay, so we're breaking down all of your goals into basic habits that we can start inculcating in your life. And with these 7 contexts, we can merge those 2, the long-term lifestyle things with your basic daily habits. Okay, but we want to have a system where we don't want to compartmentalize our life so that only our personal goals can be achieved, and we have to go somewhere else for all of our, shopping lists, all of our work projects, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, before we do go ahead, does anybody have, sorry, Sam, I muted you. I was getting a lot of road noise. Are you trying to unmute? Sorry. Sam.
Yeah.
I did mute you because we're getting a fair bit of road noise. Did you want to say something?
Mute myself. Do you want to maybe just mute me again?
Okay. All right. Well, before I mute you again, I'm going to ask if you have any questions about how your current Evernote setup is working. Like, do you have any questions about it? You there, Sam?
Got me, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any particular questions or queries about how your Evernote is set up currently? Anything that's not clear?
No.
No. All right. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to mute you, and then I'll move on to the others. Okay. So, Pete, Tim, either of you have any questions about the current setup? Have you found it to be helpful, or are there any things that are not so helpful at the moment?
I find it's quite good. I want to play around with it more when I set up a time where I just go through Evernote and kind of adjust it to myself as well a little bit.
Yep.
Maybe utilize the calendar option. I think that's definitely something that I think will be useful for me.
Excellent.
Just to go offline, from work or whatever. To not turn all the do not disturbs and just focus on my personal things.
Yeah, awesome.
And I think that's definitely going to be helpful with Evernote and completing certain tasks or certain notes during that time.
Yep. Okay, cool. So nothing to add or change. You just want to spend some more time playing around with it?
Play around with it. I want to add in the calendar like adding the calendar there. Yeah.
And Pete, how are you finding it so far?
Yeah, I think it's good. I'm finding it good. I'm certainly obviously not using it to its full capacity. I get that, and hopefully after today we might give you a bit. The calendar one, and I guess probably just trying to work out those kind of notes to yourself that you know where the best place to put them are ones that are not necessarily fitting into any of your tags and things like that, or even your inbox, but just something that you can kind of go back to later. So maybe a bit like Tim, just probably just got to keep playing around with it.
Okay.
But for what I need at the moment, it's, you know, it works. It's easy to throw in something in there and then.
Yep. Okay. So there's just a familiarity issue. You just want to play around and make sure you're on top of things, and potentially fill some gaps. So there are potentially some gaps where the notebooks or the time contexts are not doing what you need to do. So hopefully we can cover that today. And if there's still gaps there after today, then we can address those specifically.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, let's dive right in. I'm going to share my screen. I'm not sure what that's going to look like for you, Sam, but as I said, we are recording, so it should be, you'll be able to come back to it. Okay, so everyone should have a home page that looks something like this. They should have the notebooks, 4 notebooks here: inbox, action pending, cabinet, and completed, as well as their 7 tags on the sidebar here. So what we're going to add in is a set of tags to begin with. And again, there is a naming convention that is important to stick to. So we're going to add 4 more tags. This is .what, .when, .where, and .who. So we're going to do a who, what, when, and where. And Pete, this who tag will be a great place for you to have who equals yourself, Peter, and then you can have a note just for yourself, right? So you can do the same, like let's say you want to organize something for your wife's birthday, you can have a tag for her, and then you can have birthday ideas and all related to her. Okay, because sometimes, you know, you want to build on them over the course of a year or something, and or you know, multiple years over the course of a marriage. And so this is not necessarily going to fit into any of the action pending contexts, but every now and again, you know, the month leading up to her birthday, you can go to your who tag, find out what, you know, click on your wife, and there you have all of your past birthday ideas, etc. Okay, so what we've done is we've created a who, what, when, where time context. And what you're going to see is that we can nest all of the previous tags easily under the when context. Okay, so this is as simple as just dragging the previous tag and putting it under the when context. And as you'll see, it nests very neatly underneath. Okay, so we can just do this. Okay, take all of our time tags and add them into the when context. Okay. So Tim and Pete, did you follow along while doing that?
Yep, all good.
Okay, excellent. Under the when, we don't have to add any more. And we can then collapse those, and we've just got the 4 notebooks: inbox, action pending, cabinet, completed, and then the 4 tags: what, when, where, and who. We can create new tags for, let's start on the where context. Naming convention on this one is the @ symbol, and then we can have at home. We can have at work. We could have at shops. And we can have at, we could have just at out or town, whichever you like. So probably town is easiest. This is just sort of like when you're out and about. So I might use town or at out. You can have both if you want. Right, and this gives us a set of contexts where we can, have, say, home improvement ideas or things we want to set up about it with our home. If you've got home renovations going on, as you do, Tim, there might be a whole host of notes or ideas or phone numbers or tasks that need to be done in relation to your home renovations. Okay, and again, there's not necessarily a time context. It may just be sort of, you need to ask the next builder you speak to a whole bunch of questions, something like that, right? So you could have, say, that at home tag, and you could have one now, both those tags on the same note if you wanted. Okay, and we can obviously drag each of these tag contexts to the where context. So as you see, it easily nests. Okay. So now we've got our when and our where contexts filled out.
For the where, would you suggest, like, for example, I have renovations on a few houses. Should I put in all those different properties in there?
If you like. So you can create this to be as comprehensive as you want, but I would say that you want to keep things as general as possible.
Okay.
Right. So I would probably say instead of having, like, you might have a home tag for the home that you live in, and then you might have like a tag for at properties.
Okay.
Right. And so that's like a differentiation between your home and all of your investment properties.
Okay.
Right. But you can do it however you want. So if there's a lot that needs to be done for each one of them, and each of them is independent of every other, then it might make sense to have them individually. But
Yeah.
if it's the case that basically the same set of things you need to know about any one applies to all of them, then maybe it makes sense to just have, investment property or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, the same is, we can do the same for the who tags. So for me, I have like my son, Sid, and this, we don't need any specific dots or ats or punctuation. So Sid is my son, Minnie is my wife, Regan, obviously me. I can have like my clients, so I could have Tim, Pete, Sam. Cool. So now I basically have my immediate family members and my clients. And so let's say, Tim and I have had a conversation about some of his personal projects that he's working on. I can create a note about all of the info that Tim and I have talked about, and then I can just save it under his tag. Okay, this really helps me keep tabs on what it is that Tim's trying to achieve throughout our coaching sessions, right? Okay, and we nest each of these. Okay, and then finally, we have our what tags. Now, this is going to be the most specific to you. So for instance, I might have, I can add active projects. This is one I think everybody should, oops. This is a differentiation people should have. Active projects versus inactive projects. So Pete, you're at uni right now, and so some of what you're doing is going to be in the active projects, so for your university coursework, etc. And then once the semester finishes, you can just drag that into the inactive projects.
Yep.
Okay, so you may still want to have access to your course material, the presentations you've given, but they're not active anymore.
Yep.
Okay, so that means you can have what active projects and what inactive projects, and then under your active projects, you can have, any of the appropriate things for you. So for me, I might have coaching ideas. I might have my Zaytuna farm house. So I can just name a whole bunch of things here for me, and then I can keep these under the active projects tab. And so now I've got nested, multiple layers nested. And then let's say Zaytuna farmhouse is finished, or I'm not working on it at the moment, I can move it from active to inactive. Okay, and so that's the basic tagging structure that then allows us to have, obviously there's our time context, which we've already been working in. And the reason that I start with these is because obviously they're incredibly powerful. They allow us to systematically move future ideas. We can manifest anything that we want to bring into our life in the future, and we can do it in a really systematic way. Okay, and we can bring things from the future in a systematic way into our present, and vice versa. Make sure our present is aligning all the way into our future. But of course, we need to be able to integrate all of our work projects, our the different places we go. So I also go to the farm. So a new tag for me might be at Zaytuna. And that way I can have different tags that map onto the different spheres in which I exist. Okay, so now what Evernote becomes is it's not just a personal diary, personal tool. It's a tool that allows us to keep track of everything. Okay, so I would say just for a little while, it'd be best not to load too much of your work stuff on this, unless that really is directly related to the goals you want to work on with me. Okay, because what I don't want to have happen to you is you get lost in all of the things that you just sort of have to do. Part of this coaching program is to make sure that you're focused really clearly on the things that you've come to see me for. Okay, but I do want you to have all of the tools you need to take in all of the lessons that I've taught you and expand them out into any aspect of your life. Okay, so with this structure, you should be able to do that. And now I know there was some question from Tim and Pete in particular about the application of Evernote as it's currently used to other aspects. So does this structure show to you a way you would be able to use it in the way you would like to use it? Pete and Tim.
Yeah, no, it certainly helps. Certainly that makes a bit more sense now how you can try and throw them in there. So just one. So with these ones, Regan, if you're putting stuff in here, how does that link back to the stuff that's sitting, I guess, in your action pending and things like that? Do you link them back in there as well, or do you keep them completely separate?
Right, that's very, very good question. So the great thing about these, this tagging structure is that if I create a new note, I can tag it with, sorry, I don't usually use that. I can tag with multiple time contexts. So I could say, this is something I want to do now, and it's the next time I'm at home.
Oh, yep. Okay,
yep.
cool.
And it's going to be related to, it's for my son, Sid, etc. And so now I can actually filter. So when I search for, like, let's say I'm looking for my one now tags, and I want to add additional filters, I can also add a filter of who, Sid, etc. So I can filter I can concentrate down to only the tags that I want to do now with Sid when I'm at home, right? Or alternatively, the ones that I want to get to soon at work, right? So that I can focus my my concentration down to being just the things that I'm doing at home. So when I'm at home, I can, they've changed the structure that this works. I'm still getting used to it. All right, so when I'm at home, I can have all of the context that I have associated with my home projects. Okay, I can filter by all of the nows, and I can add in multiple. So I can have the two next, at home, etc., etc., etc. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. While I haven't got a lot of notes in this current Evernote setup, I can't show you the power of that, but you can easily see how, if you've got 100 tasks that you want to do at home, and some of them are nows and some of them are soon and some of them are next, you can easily just make sure you're focusing on, just that particular context.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say this is birthday party. So that would be like at home, one now with Sid. All right, and that is the general setup that will allow you to do pretty much most of the things you want to do in your life with a full tagging structure, full notebook structure. But you may want to add in a few notebooks that are relevant to you. So this could just be, so for me, I have a notebook called Coaching Ideas, right? And that's good for me to just jot stuff down, whenever just an idea takes me, and it's not something that I'm going to act on immediately. It's just something that could be interesting to think about. Then I add it in there. So it absolutely can accommodate all of these kinds of notebooks. However, most notes, anytime I bring a note into my system, I always start with my inbox. Okay. And then I sort it from there. So that allows me to first put it into my inbox without having to worry where it's going to go. And then I try to tag it, and then I move it towards the relevant notebook and time context. So any questions on that so far?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Tim?
The only thing is that what is the easiest way to link it up with the calendar? Or the other question that's related to that is, when do you review the number 2s and number 3s? Because if something is not in front of me, I never remember.
Okay, no worries. So first question, personally, I think the only calendar that syncs to is Google Calendar, and I don't use that. So typically what I'll do is I just use my calendar as a separate function. Okay, so it'll be up to you a little bit to go and figure out how to integrate the calendar, because it's not something that I use.
Okay.
We can talk a little bit about how to make your calendar and Evernote work together. So for instance, if I have an idea that, I want to travel to Paris someday, I put that into my Evernote first. Okay. And then when I'm reviewing my system, which I do regularly once a week, then when I get to this someday item, I can look at it and I say, okay, well, can I take any action on it? And one of the actions I might do is put some dates into a calendar that I want to work towards. Okay. So let's say I want to go to Paris in, the summer of 2024. Okay. I can go to my calendar and I can just block out the summer of 2024 as proposed dates for Paris trip. Okay. And then I can move the note from someday into later or soon or whatever the relevant content is. Okay. Yeah. So because the calendar serves the function of holding things on particular dates and times, etc., whereas Evernote has the function of just aggregating all information without necessarily having to pin it to certain dates and times, they can work in very complementary ways. So I use these as separate apps.
Okay. And how often do you review
Yep. So
Like,
that's it.
how often do you review the later wins?
Yeah, cool. So I would highly recommend creating a note, create it now, called clean up Evernote. And I always keep this in my daily, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that I clean it up daily, but it's something that I want to appear in my consciousness all the time.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 basic considerations for how to ensure that your Evernote stays clean,
Mhm.
stays organized, even when there's a whole lot of stuff going on.
Mm.
Okay, so there are 3 basic questions you can ask. One, let me just, sorry, hold on one sec. I'm going to make sure I get this exactly correct. So okay, so if you like, I will share this note with you, but you can feel free to follow along and write it down exactly. But I will also share the note with you.
Cool.
Okay, so I have this exactly in my Evernote. So some tricks to overcoming. Now it could be procrastination. That's typically the block that we have that prevents us from keeping this clean. But it can be used for much more than just procrastination. Basically, you want to ask yourself some standard questions. So this is how you systematically keep Evernote clean, and you should do a review at least once a week. Okay, so you should look at this as your primary thing to do at least once a week. But if you do it daily, if this is kind of on your mind and you're going through this every time you see a note, or you've got some time and you want to make sure your Evernote is humming along properly, these are the questions. So the first one is very powerful. First one is, if I don't have a clear idea of how to do it, can I ask someone for advice in solving it? Okay. So one of the best ways to get your Evernote clean is to actually solve each of those notes. Basically, what you want to do is move notes from the action pending into the completed or to the trash. Okay, so you should be putting Evernote notes into Evernote for the purpose of getting them back out of Evernote.
Yeah.
Okay, except for those things you want to keep in your cabinet that are going to stick around because they have importance well beyond your daily tasks. So things like your Medicare card, your tax file number, et cetera, et cetera. Keeping your Evernote clean, so going through it on a daily or weekly basis, and trying to see if you can move a note into the completed or into the trash. And so if you're not sure how to do it, or you're procrastinating or whatever, then see if you can ask someone for help solving it. Okay, so that's a really powerful thing you can do. And this comes back to delegation. Okay, Pete, you and I have already talked a little bit about this. And how have you been going with your delegation, actually, since we're on that topic?
You win some, you lose some. So the delegation's been easy. It's probably just keep pushing to make sure that the people you're delegating to understand the changes.
Okay,
that's
cool.
all right. So it's good.
All right. So asking someone for advice to solve it is good because you're still doing this. So you're actually still taking action and ownership of that note or of that task. And so you're just trying to find out the best way to get any particular thing done. And then obviously the delegation is the second one. So can I delegate this task to someone more capable of dealing with this issue than I am, or than myself? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so obviously the operational part there is more capable. Pete, maybe that's where you're falling down on that delegation issue. Making sure the person you're delegating a task to is more capable, or at least the most appropriate person to deal with that. Okay, so this can be another great way to get tasks done and to keep your Evernote clean, because getting those tasks done is not just for you. It's not just you doing these things. You don't want to create a million jobs for yourself and then spin your wheels just doing, doing an endless series of jobs. If you can get someone who's highly capable, highly competent to solve problems for you, then they should be solving it for you. And that way you still get things done. Your Evernote looks good. You're moving in the direction towards your goals, your hopes, your dreams, and you're employing the necessary help you need to make sure it's getting done. And then finally, another thing you can do to make sure that your Evernote stays clean, that your goals get achieved, is to ask yourself, am I really committed to this idea or action? So to expand on that, having the so-called power to consciously purge is very enabling. It is a different operation than forgetting and then remembering. Okay. Basically, this is a choice to not carry that idea anymore. Okay. So to answer your question, Tim, as succinctly as possible, if every week you set aside, say, a couple hours in the morning, Sunday is a great day to do it, where you spent, you grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and you went through your Evernote and you reviewed every part of that system. And you keep this note in mind. When you come to your 2 next, your 3 soon, whatever, move it into the context that is now most appropriate. Okay. Another time to do it is whenever your 1 now context is clean, whenever that's clear. Okay, so your 1 now should be your current focus of action. And the whole point is to move the items from 1 now into the completed or trash. So when that's clear, when that's clean, then you start to review your next time contexts. Okay, so that's when your 1 now is clear, you can look to 2 next. They should be your next tasks for bringing into your 1 now. And all it takes is to just retag it. So if it's a 2 next, you can simply add the 1 now tag and then delete the 2 next. Easy as that. Super, super easy. Okay, so immediately upon clearing your 1 now context, go to your 2 next, go to your 3 soon, and see if you can bring any notes into your 1 now context. Now these are your new tasks for immediate action.
Yeah.
During your weekly review, you do the same thing. You go through each of your time contexts and you examine whether that someday item can actually be moved up. Or if some part of that someday item can be moved up. So let's say you want to be, I don't know, a world champion bodybuilder. Maybe that's in your someday, but you could take a part of that someday and say, well, the first thing I need to do is go get a gym membership or go get a trainer, right? So you can take some part of that and put that into your 1 now. So the idea is that our someday things are often really, really big, broad, difficult to encapsulate ideas. They're quite vague. And so what we want to be doing is constantly taking parts of that and using that as inspiration for how we should act at any moment. Okay, and that goes in your 1 now, or your 2 next, or your 3 soon. Okay, and each time you clean up Evernote, every week you go through it, you can ask, so if I want to be a world champion bodybuilder, okay, if I don't have a clear idea of how to do that, which I don't, can I ask someone for advice in solving it? Okay, that should give you an idea. Well, yes, I could probably go and ask a personal trainer or a gym owner or someone who's done bodybuilding or a world champion bodybuilder, you know? Can you delegate a task like that? I would say generally you can't delegate the task of becoming your own world champion bodybuilder. However, you can delegate certain aspects of that task, right? So you don't have to design all your own nutrition plans. You can delegate nutrition plans to a nutritionist and workout regimens for, you know, a personal trainer. And then, of course, you should ask yourself this regularly. This is something that you really need to, that can be really helpful to narrow down your life's vision. Are you really committed to the idea of becoming a world-class bodybuilder? Because basically, if you are, you have to sacrifice almost everything else. Some life goals are like that. You kind of have to sacrifice an incredible amount. And that's not a bad thing. That is a very good thing, because having these really big, important goals, it helps focus your life. It gives you a reason and a purpose. Okay. But there are some ideas, like I know for myself, I've always had a lot of big goals in my life. One of them was that I wanted to learn another language. That was one that I had to look at and decide that actually I'm not that committed to this goal. I have plenty of other things in my life that give me sort of like that creativity, that give me, you know, that feeling of challenging myself mentally or whatever. So I decided that that goal was just not something that I was going to focus on. And then rather than just putting it aside and always feeling like, oh, I should be learning another language, I should be trying to improve myself this way, I can look at it and I can say, you know what, I really am not that committed to it. And then I can put it aside and I can actually put it into the trash and delete it out of my notes. So this is really, really, really powerful to then come to peace, be at peace with certain things that you've chosen not to do. Because what often happens is we have these goals for ourselves, we have these plans, and we're forever procrastinating taking action on them. And this causes a lot of anxiety. It causes us to feel unworthy. It causes us to feel as though we're not getting it anywhere in our life. So if we can look at something and make a clear intention to put it aside and to put it down and put it away, then we change that feeling of, you know, lack of worthiness or shame or, you know, that procrastination from a negative experience into actually quite a positive one. Where now when I think about learning another language, I know I consciously chose to just stick with what I have. And it provides me more space and more time to do the things that I really am committed to. Okay. And that's it. So I would recommend, if you haven't put it in your Evernote yourself, that you should do so. But what I'm going to do is I'm additionally going to share this link. So, and I'm going to put it in the chat so you can see it directly, and you can add from, you can add this to your Evernote by following this link. Based on everything we've talked about so far, does anyone have any questions?
No, I'm all good. Thanks.
Sam, we've got you back. Hold on, you're still muted.
I think it's a no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So he's all good. Tim, anything you wanted to cover or ask?
No. That's a clear explanation.
Okay. With all of this in mind, you should be able to now, if there are any gaps that you were noticing from Evernote previously, you should be able to fill them. Hopefully that anything that was falling between the cracks now has a place to live. The next thing is every Wednesday, I run a group, and this group is dedicated to productivity and wealth building. Okay, so basically success in general in a variety of ways. And the basis of almost all success is productivity and organization. So for this reason, if you're having any questions about how your Evernote works and how to design goals, how to keep Evernote clean, how to get things from your somedays into your nows, how to bring in habits, etc. Wednesday is a great place to come along and bring your questions about Evernote, and then we can answer any specific question that you have. So these two little courses that we've done is about helping you get set up. So now you're ready to come in and join the conversation on the Wednesdays for the group. Okay, so I've sent you guys an invitation. And I think each of you guys, I think Sam, you've said you're going to be absent for that, but it'd be great to have you there at least for now that you're there. Sorry, now that you're ready to join. So come along and I'll have more information for you there about what that group's going to look like going forward. Okay. Does anybody have any general questions that they want to ask before we wrap this up?
All good.
Okay. Well, hopefully I'll see you, Tim and Pete, on the Wednesday sessions, and we'll be, yeah, so I'll see you there.
Thanks. Hey, Regan, where did you send the link to?
I put it in the chat for this.
Oh, right. No. So the link for tomorrow's.
The link for tomorrow's meeting.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can only send that once I've generated the
Oh,
Zoom.
sorry. I thought you said you'd sent it. No, all good.
Yeah. So what I'll do, Pete, I haven't got you onto my app yet. But what I will be doing is putting meeting links on the app so everyone can get them from there. But until I've onboarded you onto the app, which I'm still going through a process of debugging and making sure it's running smoothly. So that's the same for you, Tim. In future, what I'll do is I'll make sure all the meeting links are on that place. So you can go into the app, it's on both your phone and you can get a web version and you'll be able to get the meeting link directly from there.
Cool.
But until I've onboarded you, I'll just send them out to you personally.
No worries. Sounds good.
Okay, so tomorrow at 4:20 p.m. I'll see you there.
With the meeting links, why don't you use your personal one?
What do you mean?
On a Zoom, you can have a personal meeting room, and it's always the same link.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. I knew that there was a way to have a recurring link, but I'd not really set it up. So, do you mind just showing me how to do that? And
I don't mind. Yeah.
Sam or Pete, if you want to bail, then thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, man.
See you guys.
Bye. Okay, so Tim, what do I have to do?
Let me just log in there. Log in here. I'll share my screen.
Yep.
Mine is a free one, so even on a free one, you can do it. Yeah, so once you're in this Zoom chat, you just click on meetings, click on your personal meeting.
Yeah, so I can't, unfortunately, Zoom doesn't share itself, so I can't see what you're doing.
Oh, shit.
So I can see your calculator, basically, and your Evernote.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, that's working now. Now that you've actually selected it.
Yeah, no, it's a snipping tool.
Okay. But once you were snipping, it was allowing you to see it.
Yeah. So it's inside Zoom. So do you have an app for Zoom?
Yep.
So once you go there, you go into meetings. And then you go into my personal meeting.
My personal meeting ID.
Yeah, copy invitation. This one is with you forever.
Okay, cool.
You can even edit it, put a password. And what's good about it as well, you get to admit also people.
Excellent.
Yeah, so they're waiting in a waiting room.
Yeah.
Until you admit them inside.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah, so you can have this exact same meeting every time.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's going to be very handy for the future.
Saves you a lot of time.
Yeah. All right, that's great. Okay, well, thank you for that. If you have any questions for me, ask now.
Right.
Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.
I'll see you. No, all good. Thanks, Regan.
You're welcome. Bye.